Good morning and welcome back to 10 Minutes of Meaning, where we study Mesillas Yesharim, the Ramchal, R Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, who helps us chart our path towards a better version of ourselves. I want to thank our generous sponsor of the series for the year, Jeffrey Gelb, in memory of Mesillas ben David, Shendel Bas David, and Avner ben Avram HaKohen, and today's anonymous sponsor, who has sponsored today's 10 minutes in appreciation of all of our shiurim and of the Boker Raton Synagogue. We are finishing the 19th chapter of Mesillas Yesharim, the Ramchal, R Moshe Chaim Luzzatto, has been helping us step by step, incrementally, create not only a wish, but a resolution, how to better ourselves, how to be more mindful, how to act with more alacrity, how to prove that we can live without so we can live with, how to be able to raise ourselves up to a higher level of holiness, of expectation, of sanctity, of mindfulness. And we've been learning the parak of Chassidus, how to be more pious, better versions of ourselves, not externally what we wear, but internally what we think, how we feel, and who we are. Nמצאת, so we learned there are two ideas when it comes to this, says the Ramchal. The first is the mindfulness and the intent with every mitzvah. Sheteye, לעילוי, כבודו של מקום. We've been talking about the idea that we don't just live for ourselves. We're not for the here and now. We don't measure life by the pleasure that we receive, but rather we are here to serve. We are here as ambassadors and agents. We are here on a mission to advance the brand, the name of Hashem, to be marbek kvod shamayim, to draw others closer to Him, and to be able to mold and shape the world more in His image according to His plan. Sheteye, לעילוי, כבודו של מקום שבריותיו, עושים, לפניו. That we ourselves should evaluate the decisions we make. Are we giving Him nachas? Are we giving Him pride? Are we making Him happy? Are we doing what He wants, what He expects of us? But also to teach and preach and promote that for those around us, that society at large, individuals within it, should be making choices and living life in a way that gives a nachas ruach to Hashem, that makes Him proud, that doesn't pursue our pleasure, but to live for holiness, not happiness. ועוד, הצער והבקשה, על עילוי הכבוד הזה, שיעשה בשלמות בעילוי כבודן של ישראל ושלותן. On the other hand, to feel a sense of anguish and angst, and to daven concerning Hashem's prominence, which awaits its consummation through the ascendancy of the glory and tranquility of Israel. Meaning we should be uncomfortable when we see a world that's not living according to His plan. We see a world that is distorted, a world that is compromised, a world that is corrupt, that is not the vision of Hashem. It should pain us. It should cause us an anguish. It should push us to double down on being a better version of ourselves and helping the world be the best version it could be. But now the Ramchal says something so important particularly now, and particularly for our generation. He says there is a second notion to living with Chassidus, to living as a pious person. V'utovas hador, and that is to care not only about our well-being, and not only to care about Hashem's master plan and manifesting, expressing it, accomplishing it in the world, but tovas hador. Do we think about the generation in which we live? Are we living for the here and now? Are we living for ourselves? Or do we live for our generation? Do we realize that we're part of concentric circles? At the core, at the center is us. Then there's our nuclear family. And then there are our greater family. And then there is the Jewish people, the Jewish community. And then there's all of humanity. There is our generation at large, our generation as a whole. Do we care about the world we live in? Do we care about our generation? Do we care about its morality and its ethics? Do we care about its life and its lifestyle? Are we living only for ourselves? Are we good enough? Are we happy? Are we righteous? Are we pious? Or do we care about tovas hador? Because it's appropriate, it's proper, it's befitting that the actions of a chassid, of a pious person, should be directed to the good of the whole generation. That we should elevate everyone around us. That we don't retreat and we don't hide and we don't live by ourselves, even though we might be better protected, we might be better secure if we avoid and we insulate and we isolate. But that's not what the Ramchal says. The Ramchal writes this in the hundreds of years ago in Padua, Italy. The Ramchal says you have to care about your whole generation of the world around you. As we see a meltdown of morality, we see a state of morality in decline, then we have to say to ourselves, what are we doing to raise it, to elevate it? How are we introducing as role models of how we live, of messages that we stand for and that we teach? Tovas doro. Navi Yeshayahu says, praise the righteous for the good they have done, for they eat the fruit of their deeds. Shekol ador ochal mipirosav. That means the whole generation benefits. The whole generation is better off because of the righteous. To be righteous is not to hide, to retreat, to isolate. It's not to live in an ivory tower and let everyone else fend for themselves. To live and to be righteous is to care about those around us. The door. We can't compromise ourselves. And we have to be incredibly careful. But it means to not only care about ourselves. Noach built a teva. He went in retreat, he isolated. And therefore Noach has a very mixed legacy. Avram Avinu, he davened for the people of Sodom. He didn't live in Sodom, though he had a family member there. Avram's future was not dependent on Sodom, but Avram understood he was in a generation that an entire city, a society was at risk, was in danger. And ultimately he wasn't successful, but he stepped up, he stepped forward, he davened, and he advocated on their behalf, because that's what it means to be a chassid, to be pious and righteous is to care about other people. That contrast of an Avram and of a Noach. What about Moshe Rabbeinu, whose entire life was dedicated to the generation, his immediate generation? But in the desert, in the midbar, we're reading these parshios now. Every time the people fail, every time they flop, every time they complain, Moshe stands up. He advocates on their behalf. He tries to guide and to lead them. The Gemara Baba Basra quotes from Parsha Shlach, Hayesh ba eitz. The Meraglim asked, is there a tree there? And the question was, is there a tree? Is there someone tall who provides shade and provides fruit, who cares for and provides for the generation? This is what Hashem wants. To be a chassid is not to live in isolation. To be a chassid is not to only care about yourself. To be a chassid is to be pained by the generation, take pride and pleasure in the generation. It is to lift and offer encouragement to the generation. We look around this world and morality is severely in decline. We look around at our world and it's increasingly unrecognizable. And the answer is not for we, hopefully aspiring to be pious, Klal Yisrael people. The answer is not to retreat. Yes, we have to protect, and yes, we have to filter, and yes, we have to be careful. But the Ramchal is telling us that to be a chassid is to care. To be a chassid is to be invested and involved. To be a chassid is to not only worry about our future and destiny, but tovas hador. How is our generation? We are responsible for a generation. How is our generation doing? The Mashgiach of Dan Segel, he writes, it's true on the one hand that a person should say, Bishvili nivar olam. We were nivra yechidi, we were created all alone. We descend from Adam Arishon, from Adam, who was created by himself. So on the one hand, it's true, Bishvili nivar olam, the whole world exists just for me. We were created by ourselves. However, on the other hand, if a person lives and says, Kashani la'atzmi, ma'ani. When I'm only for myself, when I only care about myself, when I'm only invested and interested in myself, then ma'ani, what am I? What is my life? We have to strike that balance, that bishvili nivra olam, to realize the whole world exists for me. On the other hand, kishani la'atzmi, if all I care about is myself. When I say the whole world is involved in created for me, it means I have the potential to influence the whole world. I have the ability to make a difference in the whole world. I have the ability to change and chart the course of the destiny of the whole world. And therefore we have that responsibility. We have that responsibility to step up and to stand up and to care and to make a difference for the entire world. How do we do that? Says the Ramchal, and this is what our rabbis had a tradition, what they said about the lulav and the four species. Let these come and atone for those. So you could say to yourself, you know what? I'm pious. I want to hang out with and be influenced by pious, and I only care about the pious. And those who are less than pious, the imperfect, those who have failures and faults, those who struggle, maybe we're better without them. Let them disappear. Let us be reduced to only the Hasidim, only the pious. But says the Ramchal, that's not the Jewish way. The Jewish way is to care the Dalad Minim, all four species, the perfect and the imperfect. The Ketores, the insects had the Chelbana, had the putrid, the pure, the poor smell, not only the pleasant fragrance. We care about the destiny of all Klal Yisrael. We write off any of our children? Will we write off any of our family members? Or do we recognize that we're only as strong as our weakest link? We have to raise and elevate and care about and be invested in everyone. That is our responsibility. The Gemara in Brachos tells us that we don't say Yitamu chotim min haaretz. We don't daven to Hashem to get rid of sinners. Yitamu chataim. we distinguish between the individual and their actions. And while we confront and we try to eliminate those wicked actions, we stand for and we stand with all people. And our job, our mission is to transform those who appear as wicked. Mechanchim are handed children who are imperfect. And we don't say, no, we only take the perfect child. We only take the child who fits exactly in the mold. Our job, our mission, Rabbanim, Mechanchim, parents, friends, siblings, is to approach those who are imperfect and to be able to try to elevate. That is our job. The Shlach Kadosh writes in Parshas Vayera, with this we end. Shlach Kadosh writes, he quotes from the Zohar. We are forbidden, you're prohibited. You cannot daven that the wicked be eliminated from the world. Why not? Wouldn't it be a purer world, a more beautiful world? The Shlach quotes from the Zohar. Had we davened that Terach, who was wicked, be eliminated, there never would have been an Avram, and there never would have been a Yitzchak and a Yaakov and the 12 tribes. There never would have been a Torah HaKadosha. There never would be a Mashiach. Imagine had we davened, we don't know the progeny, the descendants, we don't know the future. So our job is not to daven for their elimination. Our job is to engage and to turn them around, to elevate and to lift, to care not only for ourselves, but to care about a whole generation. We daven, may our generation have blessing. And when we give HaKadosh Baruch Hu Nachas Ruach, we continue 8:15 minutes, 8:45, living with Emunah, tonight behind the Bima. Till then, everybody stay happy, stay healthy,